I'm a born and raised Montanan. I was born on the Blackfeet Reservation, and unfortunately, childhood sexual abuse has been a factor in my life since I was a young girl. My stepfather is a sexual predator who preyed on me over the course of years as I grew up. I first started becoming vocal about my story in 2015 using social media. I immediately moved into public speaking and advocacy and had quickly set a goal to pass a piece of legislation that would help educate Montana children on body safety. After my story started to spread in the news, I was introduced to an attorney in Missoula who would become one of my greatest allies on my journey as an advocate and public speaker. This attorney not only represented me and helped me to file a lawsuit against my abuser, but she believed in me. I was notified that my abuser had been successfully served with my lawsuit by the process server on July 28, 2016. The day that I learned he was served was a day of great significance for me as a victim, just as it was for any other victim of childhood sexual abuse seeking justice at that time. You see, this particular day was my 28th birthday, and at the time, 10 years after the victim's 18th birthday, was when the clock ran out on justice, the day that the criminal statute of limitations expired. So on the day that my stepfather escaped justice, he was also served with my lawsuit. It was immediately apparent that my stepfather's attorney was going to focus on the statute of limitations, which made sense because the way the law is currently written, a victim only has 3 years after the realization of their injuries to file. For me, my history of chronic sexual abuse led me to inpatient chemical dependency treatment at the age of 24. Because of my history of chronic abuse, I lacked basic coping skills, a sense of self-worth, and I found myself constantly battling addiction. Because of my time spent in treatment, I was able to establish that my realization of the extent of my injuries occurred within the 3-year time limit, so my case was allowed to proceed. On April 27, 2017, almost a year after my stepfather was served, my attorney and I traveled to Great Falls and met at a coffee shop downtown to discuss a very daunting task that lied ahead and to give me a rundown of what was about to happen. This was only 6 days after Governor Bullock signed Tara's Law, the piece of legislation that I mentioned earlier, so my emotions were already all over the place. What was about to happen was a very frightening thing for me. You see, I was about to sit in the same room as my abuser and face him, point blank, with our attorneys and a clerk recorder. A legal deposition, as most of you know, is a part of the investigative process in a civil lawsuit. In my journey, this deposition was truly a turning point for me. So here I was, quite literally, sitting across the table from the man who spent countless nights sneaking into my room to sexually abuse me. I sat up straight and tall, and I stared him in the eye as my lawyer went to work. At this point in our case, which was a year into it, he had lied at every turn. He lied in his paperwork responses, and I expected to watch the same old story unfold. But to my utter shock and amazement, the man that towered over me as a child and crushed my very will to live crumbled before me and admitted to what he had done, on record in a formal legal proceeding. I held my composure until the meeting came to a close. I quietly left to my car and I proceeded to cry as I unloaded 20 years of frustration, anger, hurt, and betrayal. After all, I no longer needed to prove that I wasn't a liar. If House Bill 202 passes and is signed into law, it would open up the door for so many victims in Montana to seek civil damages from their abusers and to possibly obtain their truth like I did. If this bill is passed, my abuser's other victims could file a lawsuit like mine against him. Countless victims across the state of Montana could be positively affected by this bill, so I beg you today, please vote yes on House Bill 202. Thank you.